Joining us all the way from Maryland in the United States, we have the very beautiful Sherri Divband back with us today. Hello, Sherri.
Hello, beautiful ladies. Thank you so much for having me back. It's so nice to see you again.
And you too, Sherri.
Nice to meet you too. We always look forward to our chats with Sherri, don't we?
We love them. We always have many questions.
Too many.
To get out when we speak to you. And how have you been, Sherri, over there at the moment?
Things are okay. I mean, personally, I've had some health issues. I had some dental things going on in the last week that I was recovering from, and set me back with a lot of different things, but a lot of positive things as well. And so, just taking one day at a time as life throws things at you, you just, you take it head on. So I've just been kind of in recovery mode, and I've just started feeling like myself like a few days ago. Good. So yeah.
And you'd connect that back to Ascension Symptoms?
Yeah. So I've generally, my whole life, I've had great teeth. Never had a cavity. I'm kind of anal about the care of my teeth. I don't put any fluoride in my mouth, nothing like that. So it came out of nowhere where I started having this throbbing pain in my jaw last week, I guess. I don't even know what day it is right now. And it was very acute, but it was like this throbbing pain. And long story short, it turned into a dental emergency on a Friday, of course. Everything's closed because a lot of dental offices in my area are closed on Fridays. I don't know about where you are. Okay. I was calling around, and I ended up going to one place that was open, and they ended up taking the tooth out. They said it's got to go. Like the root canal wouldn't be successful. And I'm like, how is this possible? Like all of a sudden my tooth is just like infected. What's going on? It was excruciatingly painful, by the way. I've never experienced, because my whole head felt like it was going to explode, and there was no medication I could take, no Reiki I could do on myself, nothing that was making it better. And I was about to go crazy, honestly. So I was like, just take the tooth out. And it was a really hard recovery. My daughter's birthday was that Saturday. I had a party planned. I had a henna lady coming over to do henna on the kid's arm. Mm-hmm. I had a tie-dye booth. I mean, I had so much to do, and I didn't want to get out of bed that next morning. I was feeling literally feeling awful, and I just had to power through it. But as I thought more about it, our teeth hold a lot of wisdom, and the roots of our teeth hold a lot of energy. And into this ascension right now, a lot of us are in a process of releasing and healing. And I feel like perhaps I was holding on to a lot in my jaw and in that area. And that was a way for me to release. And it was unfortunate that I had to lose an adult tooth, but that's kind of awkward, but at least it's way in the back. No one can see it. Right. But, I try to look at the upside of things. I was talking to Jean-Claude the other day, perhaps it was a psychic attack, who knows? But I really feel like it was more of a release, because we were talking about how a lot of us light workers and those of you on a public platform, like you bringing guests on, are getting attacked or targeted right now. And I was feeling a little bit under the weather a few weeks ago, and I wasn't feeling like myself. And I talked to like 12 to 15 people a week. I'm doing classes, I do coaching. And so I'm around a lot of energy, and I do a lot to protect myself. I have a whole regimen. I take that very serious. I'm very serious about protecting myself and my clients, because I've experienced horrible things in the past, and I learned the hard way, because I didn't really have a mentor when I started out. I was just excited to do a lot of these things and didn't really have anyone to teach me. So I was just like doing everything, not protecting myself. Next thing you know, like these crazy things were happening to me. And finally, a mentor that I did find, she was like, Sherri, like, protect yourself. What are you doing? And I was like, what does that mean? Protect myself from what? So obviously I'm very naive back in the day, but so I take it very serious now. That's the point of that story, is that I am very diligent about my practices. So it hadn't occurred to me that it could have been a psychic attack. Perhaps it was, or perhaps it was just a lot of energy coming at me. But nevertheless, the tooth came out, and I'm feeling much better now. And so if anyone out there is having toothaches or tooth pain or throbbing, it could very well be related to Ascension Symptoms and the process of releasing. So don't hold it in. I'm not saying you need to get your tooth out, but just be intentional about releasing through breath work, through your thoughts, about releasing anything that no longer serves your highest good, and try to get that out energetically so that it doesn't turn out to be a dental emergency like it did in my case. But it could very well have been Ascension Symptoms.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're on the other side of that now, Sherri, you poor thing. And so you're doing so much amazing work. So I'm sure there is a lot of energy coming at you. As for us as well, we do definitely experience it more so now that we are on the internet. We weren't on social media before this at all, for the reason that we were highly sensitive. And we have also had to learn how to do different protective things for our energy and whatnot. So we completely resonate with what you're saying. So I'm glad you're feeling better now. We have had also a lot of people, our viewers, mentioned so many different symptoms, from heart to breathing to, and we talked about migraines last time, I think. So there's a lot going on and coming at us, my goodness, from all different angles. I've had so much trouble sleeping, nightmares, and I don't really sleep like that normally. So it's been very full on, hasn't it?
No, we're definitely all feeling it. So we empathize with you, Sherri. We understand, and I'm sure that the viewers do as well. Sherri, this is chat 3 with you now. So we've been chatting to you for a little while now. But for anyone that hasn't seen the first 2 chats that we've done with you, we would encourage them to go back and look at those, because you do give detail about your background and how you came into doing all of this. But just briefly, though, just for people that are watching this for the first time, you're an intuitive life transformational healer, and you help both adults and children tap into their true potential by finding their own ability to heal their mind, body, and soul. Is that a good summation of what you do, Sherri, in a nutshell?
Yeah, I think so. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Okay, good.
And it's great because, Sherri, you do teach people how to actually help themselves so that they can go off and heal themselves and continue to do that. So that's what we love about you. You're such a warm person and doing, and like we said, so much great, amazing work. We know, Sherri, that you've got some urgent messages that you wanted to communicate today. So did you want to maybe start off talking about walk-ins?
Yeah, so walk-ins, for those that are watching that are not familiar with walk-ins, because there are a lot of people that have never heard the term before, and it has actually been quite rare up until about probably 30 years ago. But walk-ins, generally what that means is that the soul that is inhabiting the body at that time decides that's on a higher level, that they don't want to be there, they don't want to follow through on their journey. For whatever reason, they want to exit. And so instead of committing suicide or taking their life, an agreement is made on another level that another soul will come through and take over your life, take over your body for you, and finish out your journey. And that's generally for people who have a lot to do in their life. And had they exited the earth plane early, it would have affected a lot of other people, because there's a ripple effect. Let's say that woman, let's say, was supposed to have children, and those children were supposed to do some incredible things. And then those children were going to have other children, and it would have affected the entire timeline. And so they couldn't do that. And so somebody else will come in. And you asked the question before we started, does the person know? On a higher consciousness, yes, they do know, but on a an everyday third density consciousness, they may not be aware of it. So they'll go to sleep one night, or a lot of times what happens is if there's a procedure coming up, anesthetic procedure, things like that, then they will have that switch taken place. And the family will not know, the people around them will not know. But a good indication that something is off is the person has a markedly different personality. They suddenly don't like the same things. They act differently. They may be kinder. They may be a nicer person, more patient, because generally the soul that walks in will be a little bit more evolved so that they can take over that life. So like I said, it's been pretty rare because we haven't had such a need for it. But what I discovered recently through my sessions working with a lot of children, and this is very interesting because it's also personal to me because I have a family member that's a walk-in. And what I've been told is that these high density beings that are coming from Andromeda, Sirius, Pleiades, all these other star systems are very high vibrational, and they don't want, this sounds terrible, but they don't want to be a human baby. They don't want to be a human. They don't want to go through that stage. One, because they don't want to, but two, their energy can't withstand a small form. So at some point during the child's development, and it's going to be different between sexes, where they are, regions of the world, the family dynamics. So it's not cut and what's the word? What's that phrase? It's not cut and dry. Right? Yeah. Okay. For every situation. So it could be a 2-year-old that suddenly they go and they have their tonsils removed, for instance. They come out and there's a switcheroo that happens, and then the soul that was meant to take over. So this is the opposite, where another soul agrees, that says, you know what, I will be in the body for you for 6 months, 2 years, 10 years. And when you're ready, and they agree upon a specific time frame, then they have the switch. So it's an opposite walk-in, where the true being that is supposed to have the lifelong journey and that avatar, that body, comes in at a later date. And that is generally because of the fact that a lot of the new earth children, this is happening a lot with children, which is what I'm discovering, is that they have such, their vibration is so high that the parent couldn't carry them. The pregnancy would be too difficult. And their small little bodies wouldn't be able to hold that vibration. So they likely would have a lot of health issues, and it would be a struggle for the parent and the little child. So they come in a little bit later. And I noticed this about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. And then I started, and I saw another one, and then another one. And then I found out one of my family members was a walk-in. And I was like, hold on, am I the only one? Is anybody else seeing this with children? And to be honest with you, I don't know anybody else. And I'm not saying I'm the only one that knows. I just don't know anybody else that has worked with children that are walk-ins. So I'd be curious if anybody watching this knows that their child is a walk-in, or has been told, or works with children like I do. But on the same token, there's a lot more walk-ins in the adult arena as well. And it's because of the ascension. So perhaps they've decided, I'm ready to exit the planet, I'm going home, and another soul will come in of a higher density to help follow through with the ascension and moving things along with our evolution. Perhaps they're architects of the new world, so they're going to come in and take it over from there. I mean, there's so many elements. It's really difficult to kind of narrow it into one category, because what I'm seeing is it's quite complicated, and there's a lot of layers and dimensions to it. But there are an exponential number of children that are walk-ins right now, and I thought that was very interesting. And the parents are not always going to know, but if the parents are really paying attention, they're going to notice a shift in their child. They're going to notice a personality change, and it's usually drastic. It's not going to be over a course of months to a year. It's going to be, hold on a second, my daughter or my son is different. Suddenly they act different, they talk different, they require different things. Maybe they're a little bit more loving, whereas the other one was a little bit more standoffish. Maybe they're more outgoing, and the other one was more introverted, or vice versa. So those are things that people can kind of pay attention to if they're curious to know, based on the drastic personality changes or diet changes, or subtle change. They can be very subtle, but then sometimes they can be quite drastic. But most of the time, people aren't going to notice the difference, which is interesting.
Yes. So in regards to the walk-ins with the adults, would it be mainly the adults that are really, really struggling, and then the walk-in happens? Is it sort of like they're really down and out, but they do have much of a bigger purpose to serve in this lifetime, and they're the ones that are experiencing the walk-ins?
Yeah, well, yes and no. Yes, that is true. But I've also been shown that some of the walk-ins are actually third density, kind of what we would refer to as the sleepers, that are never going to wake up. And there are higher ups, out there in different alliances and collectives that will make a decision that, okay, this soul, and have a conversation with the soul. It's not like the soul is not aware of what's going on a higher consciousness. The soul will say, I'm not ready to awaken. It's clear that I'm not going to awaken in this lifetime. There's too much going on, too much trauma, whatever it may be, too much programming. And they will actually agree to exit the body so that this other soul can come through and carry out. And then, and this is how you know, and I've actually talked to people that this has happened to them, where a family member, their brother, their spouse, whatever, suddenly wakes up and not literally overnight they notice it, but they notice that they're different, that they're suddenly awakened, and they're open and receptive to some of the things that the family had been talking about, whereas before they weren't, or they suddenly regret certain things that they did and stuff like that. And they realize that they have a different take on life, and it can be quite drastic. So like I said, it's hard to compartmentalize because there's so many different variations. So some of them make a deal ahead of time, and some of them are approached to allow that soul to advance and go back and be a light being and reflect or go home on their life here on earth. And then some other soul will come through and take over their life. Does that make sense?
Yes, it definitely does.
It can be confusing. It can be very confusing.
So are we talking in the thousands at the moment, Sherri, with these walk-ins?
At least.
Okay.
At least.
Right. Yeah. But this has been happening, you would say, did you say 30 or so years? Is that how long you think this has been happening?
I don't know when it started, hundreds, centuries, and maybe thousands of years ago, but that was on there was no need. It was more rare.
Right.
And but now being on the Ascension timeline, I would say about 30 years ago is when it started to occur more often. And then we got to a point with the New Earth children, I would say after the year 2000 is when it started happening more and more.
Okay. Right. I think that timeline sounds about right, actually. Yeah. Just, thinking about some of our own experiences and family members and whatnot. But I just wanted to ask, these souls that come in, are they from other planets, or are they galactic beings in a sense? And do they have, I guess, more sort of special characteristics about them? Is that generally how you would characterize these walk-in souls?
Yeah, so they'll be from another planet, and they're generally higher density, more consciously evolved, so that they can come in and they can kind of withstand and understand. A lot of them have full memories and know exactly what they're here to do. The veil is getting very thin. So that thick veil that used to be there where we would come through, all of us, each one of us design our life ahead of time. So I like to say that you have this book and the chapters are defined, but because we have free will, the way the chapters are laid out may vary based on our choices, but the chapters have to follow a certain kind of agreement because it affects other people in our life. But when we come in, we don't have any recollection of that. We don't remember our past lives. Most people now, a lot more people are, but for rewind back in time, most people come in, and that they come into this third dimensional matrix, and it's very dense, and they have that veil of forgetfulness. They don't remember what their mission was. But as again, around the time of 2000, maybe even closer to 2005, and then exponentially again around 2012, that veil started to be released or taken out. And again, aligning with the Ascension timeline. So these New Earth children are coming in, and I'm having sessions with 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds that are telling me where they're from, how to travel through dimensions, what the Ascension is, what their journey is. I mean, they remember. And how are they remembering this? They're 5 years old, they're 10 years old. Their parents are like, I don't know where they're getting this information from. And they're blown away, and they're like, Sherri, help. And I'm like, help, this is incredible. You don't need any help. Talk to your child. Let them tell you. I'm sure they're a ball of wisdom. So that veil is very thin right now. And so more and more people are remembering, whereas before we would forget. And so there's so many changes right now happening. And I think, and as we continue moving forward, it's going to change even more, and we're going to start to remember and awaken. And that's why a lot of these volunteers from these other planets are coming in to help awaken us, to bring more light. I worked with a gentleman the other day that is part of what's called the New Earth Collective. And it's a group of 21 elders. I just talked about this the other day, so I won't go way into it, but something that was really cool that they were telling me, I was communicating with his soul, his higher self, and another elder from this 21 elder group that help new souls come into the planet, new earth souls. So they're not new souls, they're evolved souls that are coming into the earth for the first time to help with the ascension. And they were showing me how they're coming in, and the way it looks is like comets in the sky. So imagine thousands, if you look up in the sky and you can see through another dimension, there's these beautiful lights coming down from the heavens, or wherever you want to say, down into the sky and landing in our planet. And they're coming in literally like comets, like these balls of light to lighten up the planet, to help us through this evolutionary process. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because I could see that when they explained it to me. I was like, yeah, I could see that. That's what it looks like. And the crazy thing is, the guy that I was talking to said he had seen that before. So his conscious self had seen a vision similar to that. So he was like, I can't believe you said that. I've seen it before, but we hadn't talked about it.
Wow, that's beautiful.
The guy that you spoke to, this person you're
this was an older guy. This guy was older. So he was, gosh, I can't remember what he said, late 20s. So he was an older guy that came to me for kind of some direction in his life. And we discovered he was part of this group. And when we went through the session, there were so many synchronicities to what he has been doing in his life, writing a book on New Earth Souls, a fiction novel, and so many things. And we discovered he's from Alpha Centauri, and so there were so many synchronicities that he discovered through our session together. But he, and a lot of the information that I have, I don't claim to be this world-renowned psychic that tells people the future. I mean, the only reason I know all of these things is because I do a lot of sessions with people and I discover their life path. And then I learn a lot about what's going on because we're all connected. And so it's all relevant for all facets of our life and our evolution and our past, our present, our future, because there is no such thing as time. But in this Earth matrix, we are defined by this linear timeline. And that makes it easy to see glimpses of the past and how it affected the present and how it will affect the future through glimpses of each person that I work within the scope of their life, which is really incredible. And I feel very honored to be able to do that. It's not like I sit in my house every day and connect and try to get, prophecies and tell people what's going to happen, because that's not how I work. And I'm just lucky enough to talk to so many people, and it fills in so many pieces of the puzzle by talking to this guy the other day and talking to all the children. And that's how I knew about the Watkins. And so it's like a little treasure discovery every week on what am I going to learn this week, and then I share it with all of you because I'm so excited to be able and honored to be able to share it publicly with people so that they know what's going on, what's really going on beyond the illusion that we're exposed to. Yeah.
And that the fact that you're receiving all these messages and then able to communicate it to us and our audience and everyone that listens to this is pretty amazing, I think. And when you do hear this information and you do become aware of these things that you didn't even know about before, it really expands your mind, your consciousness so much more. And just hearing these things helps people to ascend, I think, so much more quickly than they would have if they weren't hearing this information. It really just helps you take jumps in your evolution. So it's so good to hear all these stories from your clients and what you're finding out. It just really raises your consciousness so much. So I hope the audience can feel that as well as it all digests.
Yeah. It helps to put things into perspective as well, because it's so easy to get caught up in this whole 3D thing that we're going through right now. It's a real strain on people, and to do conversations like this, we feel very lucky to be chatting to you, Sherri, and the audience, I'm sure, feels very fortunate to be listening as well.
But what I also amazing. Like, Sherri, is that you bring it back to a human level as well. So it's not just that we're sort of living up here, and you really bring it into a human form. So you could potentially have this bliss type life, but in a human form. So I feel like you really bring it into that format for people.
I think it's bringing futuristic kind of concepts to being normal, to being something that we can actually physically experience, and actually being able to fathom that as well. So we would definitely encourage the audience to not be afraid of thinking in a futuristic sense, because that's where we all need to be heading, and we need to be bringing that into our 3D existence, I guess. So this is I'm enthralled with just the first part of this conversation. So I think we're going to have to scrap a lot of our other questions because
we'll do another one and another one.
I just had another quick question before we move on, just around the walk-ins. So we did talk about walk-ins for adults, but when you mentioned the children, the walk-ins, would you say are happening around the ages when it's most appropriate, I suppose, for the parents to deal with it? Because as you said, they might not have been able to deal with it when they were carrying that child before it was born, or it was maybe too much for the child. Does it sort of happen when everyone's ready?
Yeah, because I've seen such a variation. I mean, they could be 6 months old, they could be 2 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old. I've even seen in the teens, 15, 16. And I think it has a lot to do with what was pre-planned. what the soul that's supposed to have the long-term experience, what their choice was, when did they feel that the optimal time would be to come in. Because I'll be honest with you, some of them say, I don't want to be a child. That really is the hardest period that I have learned from any session with anybody, doesn't matter their age. When I communicate with their higher self, they say, people don't understand how hard it is to be a child, to be in a small body, to not be able to articulate how you feel, not be able to channel your emotions, especially in this, like the year and under stages where your body is trying to figure out how to work, how to process, how to digest. And it's very uncomfortable. And, when I communicated with my own children, specifically my second, who's 9 now, and he was very challenging. For the first 6 months, I swear he didn't stop crying. He cried like 24/7. And we had a orange stroller, and we would take turns, everybody. I mean, we had the whole family helping us, and we would just rock him back and forth. He had to be moving constantly. He just needed to be moving. He could not sit still. Otherwise it would be too much for him. And so we all just did what we needed to do. But when I was a little bit less tired and a little bit more sane, a little bit later, I tapped in, and he explained to me, I hated being a baby. It was the worst thing I have ever experienced. I never want to do that again. And
Wow.
so, and I'm hearing that more and more from others that I speak with. So there isn't an exact answer to that question, because it really depends on the situation and the agreement ahead of time on the parent side as well as the child side. So it could be a variation of ages.
Mm-hmm. So when you say he hated being a baby, did he sort of become better as he became a toddler and then a little bit older? Like that was more comfortable for him after that? So he's okay being a child at the moment, would you say?
Oh yeah, he loves life now. I mean, he is just a little love ball. I mean, he just loves. But I think he hit a pivotal marking point around the age of 4, and everything shifted for him. So I think at that point he felt like, I can move around, I can articulate what it is I'm trying to say, I can reason with mom, I understand like things a little bit better. And then it just, every year he got better and better and better at living. So I think a lot of these walk-ins are like, nope, I'm not doing that. And this other beautiful soul's like, I'll do it. I'll be a baby. I don't mind it so much. I've done it a bunch of times or whatever. And then they kind of take turns. And so it's this beautiful kind of agreement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's actually funny. Like I remember when I was a child, Sherri, I really remember feeling very adult. And I think I had a feeling that when I was around 6, and I was feeling like, I've got all these adult plans. I don't know if this is similar or not, but I have these adult plans I had to get done. But I was 6, and I was like, oh, well, this is going to be difficult because I'm going to take a while to get there. But I just remember not really enjoying being a child in that sense. Like I had this kind of adult brain. And then I had my awakening at 11, my big awakening. And again, I just felt like I took another leap, and I was like, oh, but I still have to be 11 and I still have to be 12. And it just felt like it dragged for me in a lot of ways. So, yeah. Sherri, I just wanted to ask you, I feel like I remember you speaking about this in another interview. So sorry if I'm getting you to repeat yourself, but it was a beautiful story about you being able to hear or speak with your unborn child.
I think it might have been with your daughter.
She came to me, I don't remember when, because time is a blur right now. Let's say it was roughly a year before, maybe, I don't know, roughly a year before I got pregnant. And she came to me, she introduced herself at that time as Lily, because that was the name that she had in another life, and that we apparently knew each other, and that she was going to be my daughter, and to be ready. And we had a huge journey together, and she was going to be here to teach me a lot of things, but to teach humanity a lot of different things. And she told me that I would have a youth center for kids. And she didn't call it a youth center. It was a spiritual center for children. And it's blossomed into something so much bigger now. But now, she's 7. So a lot's happened since then. But I channeled her. I didn't tell my husband, but my mom knew, and a very few people knew. And I would communicate with her. And sure enough, I got pregnant. And I kept a journal, and every single week of my pregnancy, she would channel a message to me, and I would write it down. And I actually have maybe a half a dozen of her messages in my second book, Divinely Guided. And I shared it with the world because I realized that a lot of what she was saying to me was information that the world needed to know, that it wasn't for me. It was for all the parents out there, all the people out there to understand things in her perspective, being from where she was from and all of that. And so I was reluctant to share that for a while because it was personal to me and I didn't want to. But then I went through and I picked out the ones that I felt really were for humanity. And I put them in the book, just verbatim exactly what she said. But we spoke for the entire pregnancy. She was due, the due date September 22nd, I think. And she told me when I was 4 months pregnant, I'll be joining the family on September 8th. And I was like, okay, I wrote it down on the calendar. I told 2 people. She came on September 7th. Isn't that crazy? So like it was off by 1 day. So yeah, we communicated the entire pregnancy. She told me she was going to come. And it was so beautiful to be able to meet her finally in person when she came. And she cut me off. So at about 3 months of her age, I was still communicating with her telepathically. And at one point she said, Sherri, you need to talk to me in person now. Like we have a bond now. We're going to take this element out of it. Like I was like, it was almost as if I was bypassing the little baby version of her and going right to her soul. And she said, talk to me. I'm right here. And I was like, okay. And so, but it was hard because it's a baby. How do I get, and so she kind of cut me off for a while. But one of the things she said to me is repeatedly, don't let me forget, don't let me forget that's the biggest problem with souls that come in and they forget their journey and they forget who they are. Please don't let me forget, no matter what happens, don't let me forget. And I can look at her now and realize that, being a child, and being very earthbound and having experiences, going to school, and just having a human experience, I believe that she has forgotten a lot, but I know it's still in there because certain things she says will bring it out. But I believe that the work that we have to do together will be when she's a little bit older, because what I'm creating, the Aramis Foundation, is going to be for her. Like this is her legacy, that I feel like my big purpose in life is to help with the ascension, but to create these youth centers. But it's not for me. It's for the million children in the world, but also this is her. I'm getting this ready so that she could take it over. And that is her life mission. And so you see how these, like, imagine if something were to happen to me and, a long time ago, and I would have been exited off the earth plane. They would have never let that happen, because look at all the things that would not have occurred after that. So that's when that divine intervention comes in, where miracles happen, where people, survive the craziest incidences, because they can't leave the earth plane. And so because they have a very specific mission to accomplish. So and that happens with a lot of people when I do sessions with them, and they're worried about getting, this or certain things. And I tell them, I never tell anybody medical advice, but I'm like, I'm looking and I can see your future. I'm being shown flashes like this, boom, 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 of you with this child and grandchildren and here and here. To me, that shows me you have a long life ahead of you. So regardless of what you choose to do, I believe you're destined to be here for a reason, and you have a lot to accomplish. And so you're not done here. And I tell them, you're not done here yet. Mm-hmm. So and that's kind of, I don't know where I was going with that, because it kind of went from one thing to another, but it's all divine. It's all about divine planning, right?
No, I just wanted to know, how did you receive those messages from your daughter before she was born? Like, how did you get that through? Was it through dreams? Was it through downloads, or you would see, images of things in the 3D sense? How was it?
No, I mean, it was telepathic communication. So I would she would signal to me it's time to chat or whatever. I don't remember how she would say it. I would get my journal out, and I would sit down in my little meditation space that at that time I had created. And I would put my pen to the paper, and she would start talking to me, and I would channel the message. So it was literally a channeled direct message that I would write down exactly how she wanted to say it. And a lot of times I didn't even know what she was saying, because I was so tuned in that I'd have to go back and read it. I'm like, okay, what did we talk about now? I don't remember. And then I'd go back and read it. And I was like, oh, okay. Because when you're in that state, sometimes you have no idea what you just wrote. So you have to go back and read what we talked about. What did we talk about today? And that's how I realized that a lot of the messages were not for me. They were messages that I needed to get out. And at that time I was like, how am I going to get these messages out? You know, and eventually I did. And I'm doing it now through a public platform, through different interviews, because of the essence of a lot of what I say were things that she taught me, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, I just love that story, Sherri. Thank you so much for sharing it. And we get teary at least once every time we speak to you. I literally feel like I'm going to cry right now because I just love that story so much, and just the messages and everything, and the way you've connected with her. So
yeah,
you must have an amazing telepathic connection with her now.
Yes and no. She is that we could have a whole other interview on her. She is she's almost too high frequency for me. I have a hard time communicating with her on that level. I actually have to be in another space. Like our energy together, when it's merged, it's very difficult. I have to communicate with her on a human level, but when I exit the space and we're separated, I can communicate really easily. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, no, I fully understand that. Actually, I've had situations with certain people, and when you're together, it's quite difficult. But then when you're apart, you have a much better connection, and it just kind of makes sense telepathically, I suppose. So yeah, that does make sense to me. We wanted to talk to you about your school, Sherri. We'll move on to that.
The youth centers.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you were just saying how you believe that will become your daughter's life purpose, in a sense, and you're sort of setting that up for her. Did you want to talk a little bit about your schools? Because I don't think we've spoken about that too much in our conversations with you. So maybe just touch on that, and maybe the principles that you are sort of trying to adopt. I understand you're trying to adopt these Lemurian principles. And then there's a few facets to this question, but you believe you've had one parallel life or alternative lifetime in Lemuria yourself. So maybe do we start there? Just talk a little bit about Lemuria and how that all existed. Maybe just explain what Lemuria was and describe your experience in that. And then we'll get into the principles.
Okay.
It's a long question, but it all comes together, and I'm sure you'll explain it quite well for us. But we're really keen to know about this Lemuria and how it existed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's start with Lemuria. So I would say about 10 years ago is when I discovered my life in Lemuria, and I was really into it. And then I put the book on the shelf and kind of forgot about it until recently. And I tied it all together and I realized, oh my gosh, this is much bigger than I realized. And so Lemuria was before the time of Atlantis, if we're going off linear Earth years. And most of them were Pleiadian elders that came here to help human civilization kind of adopt the Pleiadian principles. But it wasn't just Pleiadians. There were Andromedans, there were Sirians, there were Arcturians that helped. So there was a lot of help, but a large number of them were Pleiadians. And what they did is they came and helped us figure out, or them create a civilization based off of the principles of where we didn't have technology. So it was more about sharing wisdom, creating love, like experiencing love, friendship, and the principles were it was almost like a beautiful what's it called, heaven on earth. I mean, that's how it was. There was cohesiveness, there was sharing, it was full of joy and laughter, and it was very light. And so the schools is what I was a teacher, and so the schools were gravitated around the children and kind of dictating their curriculum, I guess is the word, but not the word that they would have used. And the children would kind of decide what they wanted to learn and what they were interested in, and they would go into, so different teachers would teach in different categories, and children would teach other children. So the big thing, what I love about Lemuria is, let's say the eight-year-olds, once they learn to a certain degree something that they mastered, because they would, instead of doing 5 subjects a day like we do now, which is so overwhelming for our children, that's a whole nother thing. They would just do one subject, focus on one thing for weeks, let's say, until they really mastered it and they really understood it and dive deep into it. And then those children can go and teach the younger children. And so it was outdoors. They connected with dolphins and whales. They light language, teaching wheel. Everything was very community based. And I truly believe that that's where we're headed, which is why so many Lemurians have reincarnated now and are coming in my sessions, both adults and children, because I've been told we're going full circle. And so there's a huge misunderstanding. So there was no fall of Lemuria like we know of as the fall of Atlantis, because Atlantis is a whole nother civilization. And when they started to bring technology into their civilization, that's where the power and the greed and the manipulation took over. And suddenly there were hierarchies. Lemuria didn't have hierarchies. There was no such thing. Everybody had their role, and it was divided into different sections. And so it was very cohesive and very sharing, and there was no hierarchy. And they really appreciate, the thing with Lemurians is the biggest mistake that they say that they've made, and this is again through me communicating with a lot of them, is that they were afraid to be fully human. So they were in the light body a lot of the time, and meaning that they were more in the spiritual light body and less grounded and connected to the physical body on earth, because they wanted to be more connected to spirit and source. And so that was their biggest downfall. So they never fully integrated to the body. And so they were very spiritual, but they never really had a true human experience. So when the Atlanteans came, they fully embraced that, and they did have that human experience. Now there's a lot of different versions of the story, but from what I understand, the earth itself, Mother Gaia, started experiencing fluctuations and earthquakes and all sorts of different things, which caused the land that the Lemurians were living in, which is roughly the Hawaiian Islands, Easter Island, Australia, New Zealand, a lot of that area, the land started changing. And so a lot of it started to go underwater, and they knew that because they were spiritual. They tapped it. They were tapping into the energy of the earth, and they knew what was going to happen. And it wasn't that they did anything wrong. It was that was the natural gravitation of the earth and where it was going. And so a lot of different things happened. They either exited their body, because at some point in time we were able to do this, and I believe that we will be able to do this again soon, where you exit your body, you decide that you're done and you're going to go out of back home or to be in the spirit form. And so you exit the body. The life force energy is disconnected through your intention. You don't die, of an injury. You just say, I'm leaving the body. So a lot of them did that and went home to Pleiades, wherever they wanted to go. And then some decided to go into the water. So there lie the dolphins and whales, some mermaids. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of them decided to disperse among the land. And so that's where we have the Lemurians, that civilizations that have pockets all over the world that kind of just gravitated out. And then they started intermixing and mixing with the Atlanteans. And that's where they get the bad rap, because the Lemurians started mixing with Atlanteans, started taking over their principles of technology and then the power. And that's where the story gets blended. But the core value of Lemuria is what I really truly feel within my heart, that it's like full circle. We're going back to it. The only difference is we're going to have more of a human earth connection, and we're going to do it right this time, in the sense that we are going to be fully present, but we're going to understand how to tap into that higher awareness. So it's a nice integration of the both. It's the yin and yang. It's the integration of the mind, body, and spirit, which is where we're headed. So we mentioned Montessori schools before we went live. Montessori schools, in my opinion, is the closest that I'm aware of, maybe in some indigenous cultures around the world or other countries I'm not aware of. But Montessori, and my children were all in Montessori school for this exact reason, are the closest to Lemurian principles, not because they're designed under Lemurian principles, but they're designed in a way so that it can acclimate. The environment is suited for the children instead of the other way around, which is how it's designed in traditional school. The children have to fit the mold. They have to be placed in a box. And if they don't fit in the box, then they are deemed some sort of label, whether it's hyperactive, they have behavioral issues, they're Asperger's, they're ADHD, autistic. If they have to fit in the box, they have to follow the structure, and the structure is meant for them to fail. And that's the problem with our education system. And so when my daughter came to me 8.5 years ago, spirit form, she told me that I would be opening a spiritual center. And at the time, what I understood it to be was this one location in my area, and I saw the kids outside playing, and I saw them learning meditation and vibration and energy healing and tapping into your emotions and gardening, and I mean, crystals, everything you could, I had a list of, oh, this is beautiful. They're outside, they're communicating with animals, telepathic communication, telekinesis, so many beautiful things that should be the core curriculum of our schools today and are not, but were at one point. And I thought it would be like a beautiful center where children could come, like Sunday school, but not. It's much better than that, where they can come and just explore which is why on my website it says where children are free to explore their spiritual gifts in a safe environment, where we take religion out of it, we take dogma out of it, and it's just a space for us to be fully present and connect to our spiritual side, our spirit, and learn and grow together. And so, but it was one location. And then I realized over the last few years, as I designed it and I started collaborating and seeing further visions, I realized, oh my gosh, like this is big. Like I started seeing them popping up in a few states. Then all of a sudden it was in every state in the United States, and within different cities. Then I saw one in Australia. I saw one in random Europe. Like if you look at a map, I just saw them popping up in European countries. I don't even know where they were. I saw them in South America, and I was like, oh my God, how I can't do this. By the way, I'm a registered veterinary technician. I'm right brain. I have no business savvy. I don't know how to do any of this. And I'm like, you want me, like, hold on, you want me to do this? Like, no. I don't know how to do any of this. Just, I want to be the creative mind behind it. I know what I know what I wanted to do and what I want to create, but I need help, So I started telling the universe, bring me the people that are going to help me do this. And sure enough, like just even through my sessions, I found countless people that are teachers that want to teach in the schools, parents that want, like, when are these need to be open yesterday, when are you going to open this, investors that want to fund. I created the cartoons as kind of a premise of what these children should be talking about and what they're learning. So I have my cartoon series, and they're named after my children and my grandmother. So the 4 characters have a very special meaning to me. And it's just kind of exploding. And so I still see it as a youth center. And I don't know what you guys have equivalent to what we have here, but we have something called the YMCA. Again, it's nothing to do with YMCA, but the idea is that it's like a after school youth center that we have in the States that are everywhere. I want it to be like that, where after school hours kids can come, and on the weekends and before school and do these classes. But I feel like at some point it will switch into curriculum based learning, where children will actually come to my centers during the week as schooling. Like I see it gradually getting there when people are ready and they see the need for it, and they see these children really embracing themselves. And they're not getting that right now. They don't know they don't know how to tap into their gifts. They don't understand them. Perhaps their parents don't understand them. They're reclusing, they're keeping it to themselves, they're hiding it. And we need these children to expand their light and embrace their gifts and their potential. And it is my mission, and I will die trying to make sure that I create an opportunity all over the world for every child to have a place to go to learn and grow and create and tap into their higher awareness and beyond their infinite potential. That is my mission. And I thank my daughter for bringing that into my life, because to be honest with you, I would have never in a million years seen myself doing that 10 years ago. There was no way. That wasn't even really on my radar. And now it's like my life mission. And so, you make a plan in your life, and then it never works out exactly the way you think it's going to. But I wouldn't have it any other way right now. Like, I am so excited about this. And I get countless emails from parents just crying, saying, I'm writing this email and I'm tears running down my face. Thank you so much. And it fills my heart with so much joy to know that this is not only wanted, but it's needed. And and I'm going to get emotional talking about it myself, but it's, like, where has this been? Why wasn't this around when I was 5-6 years old? Why wasn't this around sooner? And the answer is that humanity wasn't ready for it yet, unfortunately, but now we are. And these children are coming in like comets, and they need support, they need guidance. And it's time for us to adapt and create for them. with their best interests at heart and not our own. And I'm not pointing at me and you, but the powers that were. It's not about them anymore. It's about them and recreating a new foundation. I don't know what, if any of the question I answered at this point, because
you answered most of them.
I think you did actually. But at the moment, so your youth centers / schools, whereabouts do you have them right now? You've got one in, obviously, where you are, Maryland. Do you have?
Yeah, so I have one center in Maryland. Yeah. And unfortunately, due to the area that I'm in and the situation, there hasn't been a lot of interest in person. So I've really switched it over to 100% virtual, which actually has worked out because I'm able to reach a lot more people in a lot more states. So all the teachers that I work with, including myself, and that way we're able to reach a lot more children. And then I am finishing up a business plan, and I have a few investors, and I'm still looking for more to help fund this, because I have this mission to open at least 5 next year, and every year I'd like to double it. And if I can find partners in other countries, we can even quadruple that number each year to get them out there. And so, anybody that is interested, just please, if even just praying on it and manifesting and visualizing these children out in beautiful centers, and however your imagination can dream it up or create your own. I told a lot of parents, if you have this idea in your area, go ahead and start your own. It doesn't have to be mine. The more of them that pop up everywhere, don't wait for me. If you have a pod or a group of people in your area, like, you can start by renting a home and just build upon it. And I hope that perhaps I'm able to inspire a lot of people that are watching this or other interviews that, I don't need to wait for Sherri. I'm going to create my own. Let's do this now, because the children need it now, not 5 years from now when Sherri gets around to that particular area. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just that it's just me and I need more help. And so, hopefully this inspires parents and teachers to create their own establishments.
Yeah. I'm not sure if my mum wanted to send us to a Montessori school when we were younger, or if they were just sort of starting, or she couldn't afford it. I actually can't remember the reasons why, but they certainly weren't around a lot. They had become more prominent. So it's interesting. I would really like to see, and I love the idea of your schools, Sherri. I mean, certainly if we could help out with anything like that in the future, we would. Obviously, like you, where we're still kind of finding our feet in all of this, the public domain, so to speak. But we would certainly love to contribute in that way whenever and however we could. And I hope you can find investors as well, because I would like to see it to be an affordable thing for people. So people have children that really, truly do need this kind of direction in their life. I think that would be such an amazing thing. Can you imagine the types of kids that would come up and how they could influence adults as well? Because right now, the planet really, Earth has just, gone off the cliff. Like the way that we've been subjected to all the media images, just everything out there, that the technology, the reliance on technology, all of that's just taken over our lives. And then obviously the situation we're facing now, which is, based on technology, the way that it's kind of all come about, they would not have been able to achieve this kind of evilness without that technology. So, I think it's really important to have, younger people coming up that can show the way for us adults and help us get through this phase, so that we don't become, I guess, quote unquote, an extinct civilization in the way that the Lemurians kind of did. I know that it's sort of debatable whether or not it's extinct because they've reincarnated and all the rest of it. But it's really interesting how we tying all that back together. And I think Julie and I probably had a parallel life in Lemuria from what you're talking about, the fact that we've ended up here in Australia. But like you, we have a connection to animals. Animals seem to always come to us, and to children as well. And so that there's certainly some things that we can see when we talk to people like yourself that make sense to our lives. So so thank you for explaining those things for us. Okay, we did cover off, I think, all of those questions.
I just wanted to ask quickly, Sherri, so how do you feel like technology will play a part then in the future, if we're going to go back to more community-based and these really nice principles? How will we use technology, do you think, in the future, so it doesn't take over? It's not this kind of evil thing that they've made it become.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The answer that I have, because I've asked the same question, and the answer that I have received is this: we are going to have, the world will be designed based on our free will and what it is that we would like to experience. So this is what I see. I have visualized commune type of living, let's say pockets all over the world. So if you desire to be more like fully Lemurian based or more indigenous, less, if not mostly no technology, then that will be available for you. So I see smaller communities of hundreds of people, maybe not much more than that, that is very earth-based, connected, nature-based, a very simplistic life. And then let's say I have also seen small cities that are very, I mean, flying cars, like crazy stuff that we've never seen in our existence here in this particular timeline. We've seen it in the movies, and then everything in between. So you are being guided. We are being guided right now to design the life that we are interested in living. So whatever it is that we want to create, we will have an opportunity to create that, because each of these civilizations are going to be independent of one another. There is no way that one can rule over the other. Does that make sense? So there is no hierarchy involved in this. And so if you want, let's say Carly and Julia want to have I want to live in this futuristic era for a while. I'm just going to go live there. Sure, go ahead, experience it, stay there for weeks, months, a year. And then you've had enough of that and you're fulfilled. And now you want to go and live on an island somewhere and having a very simplistic life. And then you go and you do that. That is your free will. That is what you're designed. That's what you design, what it is that you want. And then you want something I kind of want something in between, like a suburban type of existence. So you can do that. So the idea is that it's all of these pockets of civilizations that are completely independent of one another. So there is no one ruling power, so that there can't be one that takes over the other, because everybody is working independently of one another, just like the Lemurian civilization was once upon a time. Then you imagine at one point if we had the Lemurians and the Atlanteans living cohesively with the technology, and then the Lemurians are over here in the Hawaiian Islands doing their thing. And everybody just kind of played their role and had their experience, and we left it at that. Then our history would have shifted dramatically. But a lot of things didn't go that way. So now why I keep saying it's full circle is because we're being given an opportunity through this ascension for us to design the life that we would like to see and what that would look like. And every opportunity is on the table. If you want to be in flying cars and live like the Jetsons, go ahead. But the theme is all around, regardless of where you go, is that we are connected. We are one. There is no hierarchy. One doesn't rule over the other. There's no war. There's no power. There's no greed. There's no money. So it's completely built on a different system. And so it's like a little heaven on earth that was once created. And it looks completely different. And that's why a lot of people have a hard time seeing that, because they don't have anything to compare it to. They're like, well, what movie is out there that's like that? What book can I read? What this? And I'm like, it's not that. You have to design it, what it is that you want to look like. You've never seen it before in this earth matrix. So you have to design it. And that's the great part. That's the great part of this, is that we have so many I keep using the term architects of the new world, because that is what we are. That is those of us that are on the ascension timeline. That is what we're here to do, to design the world that we want to be in, and to model that, and to respect one another, like the Lemurians once did, or like the Pleiadians do now, and the Andromedans do now, and the Syrians do now, and the Arcturians do now, in their own density.
That's perfectly said, Sherri. I fully understand that, and I hope the audience understood that as well.
It certainly explains how we sort of always feel like where's the best place that we should be living? Where, obviously we're needed here right now, but we constantly talk about this, and it's like, I can't say that I just love hot weather. Like, I love the sun, I love hot weather, but I also like cold weather, and I want to be in different places and experience different things, and not just be this goes for both of us, not just be confined to one place forever, amen, and that's it. You're stuck there. And it brings us to our next question. Is it too unrealistic that we could see open borders by, say, 2022, 2023? And when I say open borders, I mean beyond just this traveling thing. So beyond being able to just travel, internationally. But
without the visas.
We mean more like without those, red tape kind of things, the visas, the passports, all of that stuff, just going to be where your soul wants to be, where it's directing you. Do you see that in the very short term future? Not, I think we'd probably like to see it within 100 years. Definitely within a couple of years would be good. But it's hard to put time on this, isn't it?
It is hard to put time on it, and it's very difficult. And I want to be clear about the visual I'm giving you about the pockets. So this is going to take time. So it's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen in 5 years. Like whole civilizations are going to be created, and this is going to take time, which is why all these new earth children are coming here to help us, to anchor us in and create and to build and to model. So it's going to take time. But in the short term, I do believe that, 100% we're going to get there. I know that with certainty. But the amount of time it's going to take us to get there, unfortunately, the answer to that is it's variable day by day. And this is the biggest message that I've been getting from a lot of the ascended masters or the galactic beings that I communicate with through my clients' sessions. They said, you have to take your sovereignty back. You have to empower yourself by releasing the fear and understanding that the fear and the power is an illusion. And we are way more powerful than that illusion. We can break through. So if each and every person on the planet fully embraced their sovereignty and said that this is enough, I'm tired of this, and stop watching the news, stop paying attention to dates, stop paying attention to what's happening right in this moment that's negative, because that's keeping us in the fear. And if we started to work on expanding our consciousness, raising our vibration, expanding our light. If everybody at the same time visualized a ball of light in their solar plexus, a white light, their life force energy, and focused on expanding it up and down and out to the point where it is so far that it goes on for infinity. So expanding your light, just boom, like a light bomb, but a good one, a nice good one, a light bomb. And everybody on the planet, it would be infectious and it would go everywhere, and we would all raise our vibration, and things would happen a lot more quickly. But people are afraid, and they don't believe that they have any power. They have been suppressed. They have been programmed. They follow the person in front of them. They believe everything they hear. And that is what's slowing this down. So the reason that I cannot give a date, or a lot of people can't give a date, is because it's so dependent and so variable on each and every person that's participating in this ascension, this life. Every player counts in this game that we're in. And the more of us that have a higher consciousness and have a high vibration, the faster this game will go. But unfortunately, there are a lot of us that are on the caboose, and they're pulling us back. And some people are teetering back and forth. 1 week they're like, yay, love and light. And then the next week they're like, oh, we're all dying. It's doom and gloom. And they can't decide what team they're on. And it's just take the team element out of it altogether. There are no teams. It's just you. You are a sovereign being. You're powerful. You have the ability to heal, to connect, to expand, to do anything that you want to do if you believe that you can do it. So if everybody did that and really embraced that and took the next couple of weeks off of social media and all of these other things and just really focused on connecting to the earth and changing their diet and worked on just themselves and nobody else, I could see in 2022 the borders opening up. But I could also see this going out into 2023 if they don't. So it's that. My honest opinion is I feel like 2023 is a huge marking period, and somewhere between halfway mark of 2022, there could be a huge shift and we could be done with all of this. But again, that's hard to say with certainty because I don't know what each player on the board is going to do.
Yeah. But so you're saying individually, Sherri, we can absolutely make a difference and bring in these new concepts and things more quickly if each and every individual person is taking account for their own stuff and working on what they need to work on to raise their vibration, as you said, shine their light as bright as possible. This can all happen a lot faster. So we can't underestimate the power of just one person because it all adds up. So
we have to get out of the victim mode. That's the biggest problem, and that's what I've been told a lot, multiple times. We have to stop looking at some outside source to save us. And because that's what's holding us back. We can't just sit back on our couch and say, well, this person and this date and this is going to happen and they're going to, and please save us, because that puts us in that victim mode. It puts us in a lower vibration, and it puts us in this state of inferiority. And we are not inferior. We are actually equal. There is no hierarchy in the outer realms of outside of the earth. And so we have free will. So imagine the conundrum. There are beautiful galactic beings out there that are trying to assist us in our evolution. They are working on the astral plane, and they are doing a lot, but they can't do it all, because there's a divine law that we have free will on this planet. And if a lot of people out there that are asleep are fully on board with this and the the all of the things, I don't know what I could say on the channel, then they are, that's their free will, and they are holding us back, and they're over there saying, hey, there's a lot of people on your planet that are asking for this. They want this doom and doom timeline. They are open to it. They are consenting to it, and they can't do anything about that. So the more people that can watch these shows, or the more we can plant seeds to awaken those people, and then they recognize, I am a powerful being. I don't need to be saved. We can save ourselves if we all just band together. Then they can do more to help us. But it's almost like they got to a certain point where, okay, we can't do anything else until you guys wake up and ask for help. Right. And I feel like that's a lot of what's going on right now. So people need to say, I do not consent. I am not looking to be rescued. I'm just looking for guidance. I am looking for assistance. I will do the work as well. And I don't mean going out and protesting and putting bad things on social media and putting people down and judging people. No. It's about you being a sovereign being and recognizing your power, tapping into it, raising your vibration, and also asking for assistance. If we all did that by December of this year, we could be living in a different timeline. But there's only so much.
Sherri, how do people that are fully awake or, somewhat awake not be frustrated then by this holding back that we're experiencing, do you think? How do those people then stay in a high vibe? Because I sort of have this theory of myself, if I'm doing what I need to be doing and Carly's doing what she needs to be doing and you're doing your bit, that will sort of maybe count for, I don't know, 1,000 people or something, because we're putting out so much more. Do you see it like that? And we shouldn't be down on ourselves or feeling held back because we do have the power to help take this across the line in a sense?
I mean, we all are doing way more than we recognize. And I believe that we're reaching that tipping point based on the numbers that I'm seeing in the sessions that I'm seeing and how much progress we've made. And I truly believe, and I'm not giving a date, don't do dates, but I think that there's some significant pivotal shift coming in the winter, fall. What's it called? The winter solstice. Something is happening. And the only reason I'm saying that is I've had so many countless sessions with people, and I keep being told for that person, December. Why is everybody getting December? I don't know what's happening in December. And I started putting it together, and I'm looking back at all my notes and my sessions, and I'm like, something is happening in December. I don't know what it is, but it's good. It's a good happening. So not to focus on a date, but there's something significant about the energy. And perhaps that's the point in which enough people are awake that there can be some interventions that occur. So just hang on just a little bit longer, and just instead of pointing fingers or getting frustrated, because I get frustrated, I'm human, and I recognize it, and then I bring myself out. That's the thing. We're human. We're allowed to get angry. We're allowed to get annoyed. That's okay. But what we do next is what makes us more evolved or higher consciousness, because you just say, oh gosh, I recognize my anger. That's okay. I'm allowed to get angry. But what you do next is most important. You release the anger, you raise your vibration right back up, and you say, I do not give up. I do not consent to this. And you keep going and doing your little bit. Whatever you can do to contribute to this game is really important. So I would encourage people to look at the bigger picture. Raise yourself up way above all of the chaos, way above the illusion of what we're being shown, and raise yourself up and just focus your attention on what you want the world to look like, what you want to create, as if it's already occurred. And if everybody focused their attention on that, one, we would have a lot less people in fear mode and frustration mode, and it would lift the energy of the planet. But also it would create a space or opportunity for us to manifest something different. So just hang in there. I'm feeling strongly about December, but I'm not giving any dates. I'm not giving any predictions, but there's something in December that let's say I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, because and we're the same. We don't tend to, harp on dates or anything like that. But I have said to Julia, from my own intuition, I said, I feel that things could look quite different by December. I don't know how that would be. I don't know how small that would be, but I feel like there would be a shift of some sort. I can feel that. So
for the better.
Definitely of a positive. Yeah. So, but again, like you, it's very hard to actually pinpoint what that will look like or how large that will be. But yeah, I'm going to support you on what you're seeing with your sessions. So I'll support you there. We'll support you there, but we're not, advocating dates here, but we're just saying what we feel. So it's very interesting. I like it when things line up nicely. All right. Well, just before we tie up today, I know Sherri wanted to share some quite urgent news about intuitive eating and sugar, refined sugars, I suppose, specifically. Did you want to share that today, Sherri?
Yeah, real quick, because this information needs to get out there. I have been told multiple occasions with this intense energy behind it that humanity needs to understand that sugar is the biggest weapon against our children that was created to suppress, to reduce intelligence, to cause hyperactivity, behavioral problems, and to lower the children's vibration, to lessen their life essence, their life force energy. It dulls it down. And I've always known something's up with sugar. So I cut out sugar a lot. I mean, I didn't cut it out completely, but I don't eat much sugar at all. And I'm trying to do that with my children. But I was told recently, you guys are worried about electromagnetic frequencies. You guys are worried about genetically modified ingredients. You guys are worried about these, and you're worried about all of the TV programming. Let me tell you what you should be worrying about the most, and what you can actually change is the sugar. And it was created to harm our children and us as well as adults. Could cause all of those energetic symptoms, then causes physical disruption within the body, which then causes dis-ease. And it doesn't always have to be something as broad as, or not as broad, but as severe as childhood diabetes, but in cancer. But it can cause a lot of other issues, behavioral, and it really lowers their vibration and lessens their life force energy, which to me makes a lot of sense. I mean, they have it it's infiltrated every aspect of our children's life. The way they package it, it's in everything. It's on the TV. The cartoon characters promote it with their pictures on all of the products. And they said, this is urgent. This is something that parents need to recognize right now. And it's something that it's easy and something that they can make a change. Now, I know there are studies out there that sugar is more addictive than cocaine, and there are withdrawals. That's a real thing. So I really want to caution parents on cutting it out abruptly. So start with a lot of the processed ingredients. Start with the easy things, like cut out the candy and the cake and the ice cream and the cookies. Like cut that stuff out, maybe, or reduce it to once a week. And slowly start to take it out of their diet, because it's in everything. And it's all about moderation. So with my children, I used to do sugar-free months. We do that 4 or 5 times a year anyways. So we go a whole month without sugar, and they know it's just one of those crazy things moms makes everybody do. And they're used to it, oh, okay, fine, sugar-free month. But now it's like sugar-free lifestyle. So reducing it. And so they're learning now what has sugar in it and how it's harmful to their body, causes cavities, all sorts of crazy things. And they understand and they get it. So I really urge parents to just reevaluate their food, because what they're feeding their children, because where we're also going in the new earth is intuitive eating. It's all about, there are no diets, none of that. And we can talk about this more in the next time we talk, because there's so much I can say. But it's all about recognizing what it is that your body truly wants. And once you get through all the cravings of all the crap that we're eating, the carbs and the sugar, we get past all of that, then we tune into our body, and your body will tell you what it needs. It will tell you, I'll crave vegetables for a few days, and then then all of a sudden I really need fruit, or I really am craving orange juice specifically. And of course I use the cold press, like no sugar added, real juice. And you start to listen. Your body will tell you what it needs and when it needs it, and you'll feel better. Your food won't bring you down. So starting with the sugar, please, I can't stress this enough, how toxic. It should be labeled a toxic ingredient. It should be with one of those skull and crossbones underneath, because that's truly what they're showing me is what sugar does to adults as well. So, it's not just for the children, it's for the adults.
When you say sugar, Sherri, just to be clear, you're talking specifically about refined sugars. So I make a lot of my own sort of cakes or things like that are on the healthy side. So I use, almond flour and things like that. Is that a good alternative for people to do? So if you're using, say, raw sugar and a small amount of it, would that be a good alternative to, to your candy and your cookies and all that sort of thing? Would you suggest people do that?
To ease themselves
off and just to sort of, so that they're not feeling like, oh my God, that sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, definitely don't go to stevia or any of those other ones, because what they do to process them makes it just as bad for you. Aspartame, all of that we know is toxic. Raw sugar is better, but just remember that cane sugar is not native to the earth. It was brought here as a way to create the sugar, the sugar era or whatever. Like it wasn't native to the planet. So I cut out raw sugar. But like I said, it's in moderation. So if you're going to make your healthier cakes, I would definitely take a little bit of raw sugar. But honey, honly, things like honey,
we do that as well.
Honey is great, because that is natural. Bees create that. It's not but make sure you get the raw, the local, none of that manufactured junk that they put it in the little bear jar, like none of that. It's got to be local. And that's a great alternative, but everything in moderation, and pace yourself, take your time. So if you're I'd much rather someone use raw sugar than the white powder sugar.
And obviously, Sherri, fruits and things like that, the sugars in fruit.
Natural sugar is okay. Yeah. Fruits, and that's where we're supposed to get that natural sugar from, is from our fruit. But not the stuff that we get from cookies and ice cream. It tastes really good, but it's not good for us.
Right. I'm glad that we touched on that, Sherri, and I'm glad we could bring that to the viewers and get your messages out. That's perfect. And we'll wrap it up here, because we know that we've taken a lot of your time as it is, and we know how busy you are. But just quickly, you've put out your fourth
Divinely Guided Children's series.
You've put out your fourth episode. That's now up on your channel. Are you going to be doing a fifth as well coming up?
Yeah, please check out the fourth one. It's my absolute favorite one that I've created so far. I really, really love this one. The fifth one is already in production. It'll be out maybe 3 weeks. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks for each one. The next one, and then I'm already working on the script for the next one. So my goal is to have one every month. So every month people should be looking forward to the next one that comes out, and until we can create a I'd like to do a full feature film at some point.
Beautiful. We post those on our Telegram as well.
Oh, we do. Yeah.
We'll make
Thank you.
That's all right. And yes, if people want to donate and help out, fund the series and that kind of thing, we always link your website below, and obviously your channels and any other information we'll put below all the videos that we do.
Yes, thank you guys so much for your support, and thank you to everybody watching for your support. And so many people have donated. 100% of the donations go to the animation, so I really appreciate that and very grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, great, fantastic. Thanks,
Sherri. Thank you so much, and we're already looking forward to the next chat.
All right, Sherri, we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Sherri.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.